Glad you could rejoin us. Welcome back to the Ref Show with Brian Deane and Dean Mohareb. We did promise we'd go down to League Two and look at a game where a club, very sadly, is going down in all manners of the word. That's Leyton Orient. What a sad situation. Predictably, they lost their last home game by 3-1 against Colchester. Also predictably in the circumstances, and maybe even understandably, bearing in mind what's going on at the club, there was a sit-down protest by supporters on the pitch against the owner, Francesco Becchetti. The referee, Carl Boyson, this was with 5 minutes to go, by the way. He and the authorities came up with a very novel way around the situation.
I think it was really good at refereeing to finish the game for the integrity of the competition, to make sure last day of the season, obviously there's a result, and basically the game was announced as being sort of stopped, abandoned if you like.
Yeah.
Fans were cleared out the stadium, and then they completed the remaining 5 minutes, behind closed doors. So well done to the referee. That was very good officiating.
Supporters were kidded. Yeah. We've achieved our objective. Game abandoned, leave the stadium, and then the players come out again for 5 minutes. Which is an odd one, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it is. But under the circumstances, you can fully understand. The decisions that they had to make, and what you don't want is them having to come back to complete those 5 minutes. In a few days' time or something.
They just strolled it. I think they just strolled around.
Yeah. Well, I think the damage was done.
It certainly was. It certainly was. Carl Boyson deserves to take a bow for that. He's referee. I've been known to criticise occasionally, so it's good to say words in his favour. In the Championship, Jeff Eltringham was in charge of Blackburn 1, Aston Villa 0. We usually try and mention referees who have a clean sheet at the end of a game. And you could say it's a bit remarkable. I know there was little at stake for Aston Villa, but there certainly was for Blackburn, and he achieved no yellow cards or anything. So I presume a job well done.
Referee's aim, that one.
Yeah, Mike Jones was in charge of Birmingham 2, Huddersfield 0. This was quite a remarkable one. He's not afraid to make big calls, and he had two early on. He awarded Birmingham a penalty, which they missed. And then on 23 minutes, with the score still 0-0, Che Adams of Birmingham was sent off. Now, despite this, Birmingham, relegation threatened, still went on to win 2-0 against Huddersfield. But that challenge on Martin Craney, harsh, said Harry Redknapp, the Birmingham boss. What did you think?
Yeah, I'd go along with that. I mean, I can understand why the referee has sent the player off, because he has lunged in. He's come from distance. In my opinion, I thought it was controlled enough to be reckless. I didn't think he endangered the safety of the opponent, and therefore I'd have supported a yellow card there. But I can understand why Mike Jones has come to the conclusion he did.
The difference between the two is often subjective, isn't it? It's just an opinion in the split second of the moment.
And we've had the benefit of the replays. Mike Jones didn't. You got one look at it. So
okay. I watched Leeds 3, Norwich 3 at Elland Road. Remarkable game in which Leeds were 3-0 down. I mean, it seemed to me that Leeds were intimidated by their own crowd there. The atmosphere was something else, but came back. Tony Harrington was at the centre of that. And with my layman's eye, I've got to say I was really impressed.
Tony Harrington is a really good referee, and he was one of the officials at Newcastle who served a suspension because of the penalty incident. He's missed more games, a 14-day suspension, as fourth official in that game than some of the players who've pushed and handled referees this season. He's an excellent referee, and I'm really glad to see him back. He had a really good game.
He served 14 days, but that can equate to 3 or 4 matches, is the point you're trying to make.
Absolutely. I mean, Keith Stroud got 28 days. He served about 11 games.
And his season was written off in the process.
Yeah, and I'm not defending the officials in terms of there needs to be a sanction. There's no issue with that. But compare it to what some of the players are getting. It's unbelievable. And the Referees Association are nowhere. So, the PFA do a really good job in representing the interests of players at that level and speaking on their behalf. The Referees Association have been completely silent, and it's not good enough.
Okay, Tony Harrington's game, he had a red card as well. Stephen Naismith of Norwich correctly sent off. Nobody objected whatsoever to that. It was rather a dreary Saturday in the Premier League. My goodness, it was all. I managed to stay up and sort of keep half an eye on Match of the Day on Saturday night, and I thought that was a major achievement, really. Five games, 4 goals. Uneventful for referees. Bobby Madley. Now, this was perhaps important for him. Crystal Palace 0, Burnley 2. He got a good game under his belt, perhaps, which he needed. He'd been at the centre of some dramas recently, Bobby Madley.
Yeah, there was a couple of incidents in this game, Alan. Obviously, Anthony Taylor's been appointed to the cup final, so congratulate him and his team. One of the assistants, Mark Perry, who has come out of nowhere, the cup final appointment always throws up a surprise. He's the surprise this year, and he's incorrectly flagged Zaha offside in this game, and then Zaha's then been taken out by Tom Heaton, which would have been a red card. So there's a talking point there. There's also a penalty claim at the other end with Zaha. So there's a couple of incidents in this game. I thought Bobby Madley got the penalty one right, but obviously the offside was wrong.
And that wasn't his call?
No, it was the assistant's call. Yep.
So in terms of his work, well, he needed one, but he didn't need that drama because, I say, he's come to our attention a few times just lately. Stuart Atwell, it seems to me, steady as he goes. I don't know what you think. Sunderland 0, Bournemouth 1, Sunderland down.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot in that game. There was a caution that he gave late on. There was a sort of confrontation, and he managed it reasonably well. There was a couple of players who had hands on throats and things. He could have maybe sent a player off in that, but he's refereeing well, Stuart. He's come back well.
Sunderland down. We've known that. We could have written that and said that weeks and months ago, which is really the shame of the season there. They've gone down with a whimper, haven't they, Brian?
Yeah, I think the tone was set at the beginning of the season when Sam Allardyce, the whole kind of shambles around him leaving and, no preparation, David Moyes coming in and, making the statements that he did about, you're certainly not going to get the fans enthusiastic. And I think they've just bumbled along, to be honest. And it's sad because, up there's 3 big clubs, I think. Sunderland, probably second biggest club. And, it's going to be a long haul back now because for me, that's a big rebuilding program. They need to think about how they recruit, what strategy they have moving forward, because it's quite obvious you can't compete with the clubs further down south. It's very hard to get players up there. So they have to think about their recruitment strategy, their youth policies, and it's a big job. It's just whether or not, when they look at that, they think that it's David Moyes is the man to take that recruitment strategy.
He's damaged at the moment, isn't he, by all sorts of things, really. Is. We'll have to see about that. Other clubs are fighting on, like Hull City, very commendably, eh?
Absolutely. I mean, I big fan of Marco Silva. I went to see an ex-colleague of mine who knows him from Portugal. And, he's got a fantastic reputation. But just from the outside looking in, if you look at what he has done to that club, when Mike Phelan left, the players look as though they're playing with enthusiasm and belief. Yeah. And that's a major factor in them.
Well, they got a goalless draw at Southampton, which, notwithstanding their need to pick up more points away from home, is a great result. Now, in this, we have another big call from a referee never afraid to make them, in Mike Deane. I always call him the High Sheriff of grappling. And we always bemoan that lots of grappling goes unpunished. Sometimes, would it be fair to say he finds it where nobody else can really spot it? And there was one here that was described as soft, a penalty to Southampton in stoppage time.
I thought it was a penalty. I thought you got it right. I mean, there was a couple early season where you sort of left scratching your head. Mike Deane's give penalties and you're going, well, it's not him, I didn't think it was. But again, it was part of that early season clampdown, if you like, which has again drifted. But Mike's been consistent throughout. There was one late on that Hull then said they should have had. But again, I thought he called it right. I thought he got him right.
Okay, well, it's nice to support any referee who's anti-grappling or doing something about it.
Listen, for me, it's refreshing because as a forward going in the box, defenders are supposed to defend. And that's part of it. You have to learn how to defend. That's cheating as far as I'm concerned. So if a referee sees it, he's got to give it. Simple.
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible to spot every single one of these offences, but it's a move in the right direction when a referee does warn players that this is what's going to happen.
Absolutely.
It's a warning. Lee Probert's game was Stoke 0, West Ham 1, just a single caution in that one. Yeah. And Mark Clattenburg, not often we come to his game at the end. He's coming to the end of his time in England, and they're sort of tapering him off to low-key games. This was West Brom 0, Leicester 1.
He's been a fantastic ambassador for English refereeing. Obviously refereed 2 major finals last year in Europe with the Champions League final and the FA Cup final, and the Euros, obviously. So he's fantastic referee, and I think one of the things that the PGMOL need to look drastically at now is succession planning. We spoke before on this programme about, when people retire, who's going to come in. They've looked at Chris Kavanagh this year, which is a great appointment to the select group. Andy Madley, David Coote. They need now to start pushing some of these other lads on the Championship. Start giving them Premier League games, because otherwise they're not going to be ready when time is, when the time is right. We've got an ageing referees on the select group, and we've got to start pushing through some of these Championship and Football League referees.
Need younger guys like the guy on your right-hand side there, Brian.
Really at retirement age for referees as well. Don't forget that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll leave it there. I think that's a wrap, folks. Just a brief mention of SPL in Scotland. The boss, Jock War, would not forgive me if I didn't read out the score. Rangers 1, Celtic 5. Despite that, Jock, Scott Brown of your team Celtic, according to Keith Hackett, should have been sent off for an elbow. He agrees, for an elbowing offence. Right, that's it. See you again next week. Bye.